Welcome back to another deep dive, everyone. This one's for all you history lovers out there,
Mm-hmm.
especially those of you prepping for the UPSC exam.
Yes,
Specifically that modern history section of GS1. I know, it's a beast.
it really is.
But hey, that's why we're here, right?
Mm-hmm.
To break it down, make it digestible.
Absolutely.
This is actually part 2 of our series on modern Indian history.
Oh, right.
So if you're just tuning in, you might want to rewind and catch part 1.
Yes, definitely. A lot of good stuff there.
And hey, while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and give us a like.
Yeah, why not?
All right, now let's get into it. Today we're going deep on Bal Gangadhar Tilak.
Tilak, great choice.
The father of Indian Unrest, as the
Yeah.
British so lovingly dubbed him.
Right. But there's so much more to him than just that label.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to uncover today.
Absolutely.
He's a pivotal figure in India's nationalist movement, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. He marks a turning point, a shift towards a much bolder, assertive form of nationalism. He really embodied that.
It's like he changed the whole game. Right. Yeah. I mean, instead of pleading with the British for concessions, he's out there saying, Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it.
Exactly. Powerful stuff, not just a catchy slogan. That was a statement of deep conviction.
Absolutely. And that idea that Swaraj was a birthright, not something to be begged for, it really took hold, didn't it?
It did. It resonated across the nation.
Yeah.
Really fueled the aspirations for independence.
So powerful how one phrase can capture an entire movement. But what I find so fascinating about Tilak is that he wasn't just about politics.
Oh, right.
This guy was a scholar, a journalist, a social reformer, an educator. It's like he knew achieving Swaraj needed action on all these fronts. What do you think?
I think you're spot on. He understood that true freedom went beyond just political independence, empowering people on all those levels, intellectually, culturally, socially. That's what he was about.
Yeah, it was a holistic vision, wasn't it?
It really was.
And, his focus on education particularly interests me.
Oh, interesting.
He co-founded the Deccan Education Society and Ferguson College, right?
That's right.
So I'm curious, was he just trying to create a bunch of lawyers to fight the British in court? Or was there a deeper vision
Oh,
there?
no, it was much more than that. For Tilak, education was like the key to rejuvenating India. He wanted an education system that didn't just churn out professionals or focus on rote learning.
Right.
It was about critical thinking, nurturing national consciousness, instilling a sense of responsibility towards the nation.
So empowering people to think for themselves, understand their history and culture, and actively shape their nation's future.
Precisely. Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
It really does. It's incredibly relevant even today.
Absolutely. And that's what makes Tilak's approach to education so remarkable. He wanted to move beyond just textbooks and classrooms, to foster a deep understanding of India's heritage and a sense of pride in its identity.
And that leads perfectly to our next point, his revival of traditional festivals. Ganesh Chaturthi, Shivaji Jayanti, he turned them into these massive public events. What was the thinking there? Was it purely about preserving culture, or was there a strategic element as well?
Oh, Tilak was a brilliant strategist, no doubt about it. He understood the power of symbols, of collective action. And those festivals, they became a way to mobilize people, unite them under a shared identity and purpose.
So more than just religious celebrations, they were expressions of cultural pride and resistance.
Absolutely. Imagine these huge processions full of music and dance, patriotic fervor, centered around figures who embodied India's history and traditions.
Wow, that must have been electrifying.
It was a powerful way to awaken that national consciousness. It really was a stroke of genius.
Yeah.
Using cultural symbols to unite people across social divides.
It's like he was countering the whole divide and rule strategy.
Exactly, which, the British were pretty fond of at the time. But here's something that struck me when I was reading about Tilak.
Oh, what's that?
He was a big advocate for women's rights.
Really? That's not something you usually hear about with nationalist leaders back then.
I know. It was pretty progressive for his time. He strongly believed in education for women.
Interesting.
He encouraged them to participate in the movement.
He's ahead of his time.
He even challenged those societal norms by delaying his own daughter's marriages.
Wow. To prioritize their education.
Exactly. Put their personal growth first.
That's pretty remarkable. It shows a real commitment to social progress, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. It reminds us that these historical figures, they weren't just one-dimensional heroes or villains.
Right. They were complex people. But we can't forget about Tilak's role as a critic of the Raj.
Oh, absolutely not. His newspapers, Kasari and the Maratha, they were powerful platforms.
For dissent, right.
Absolutely. He used his journalistic skills to expose those injustices, critiqued British policies, rallied people to resist.
Didn't hold back, did he?
Not at all. He was fearless, even when it meant facing sedition charges, imprisonment.
6 years in Mandalay prison, right?
That's right. Talk about commitment to your ideals.
Wow. But Tilak wasn't just about words. He believed in action, too. He was really into the Swadeshi movement.
The Swadeshi movement, oh yes. Urging people to boycott British goods, embrace Indian-made products.
Hit him where it hurts, right? The wallet.
Exactly. But it was more than just an economic boycott. It was symbolic, you know?
Of what?
Self-reliance, national pride. Tilak saw it as a way to weaken British control, foster that sense of Indian identity.
And it resonated with people, right? That sense of patriotism, economic empowerment.
Oh, absolutely. But Tilak's approach wasn't always peaceful resistance, was it?
You're right. He was known to support those who believed in armed struggle.
He did. He understood the frustrations that led some to more radical methods.
So he saw them as patriots fighting for their freedom, even if he didn't agree with their tactics.
I think so. He walked that fine line, you know, advocating for assertive nationalism, but sometimes supporting those who took a more, well, revolutionary path.
It makes you wonder how he dealt with all those different factions within the movement itself.
Oh, he wasn't afraid of a little friction.
Right.
His assertive style often put him at odds with the more moderate folks in the Congress.
The ones who favored a more gradual approach.
Yeah, seeking dominion status within the empire. Tilak wanted complete independence, no compromise.
And that difference played out in the Home Rule movement, didn't it?
Yes, Tilak was a key figure there.
Aiming for self-governance, but still within the British framework.
Right.
Was that a contradiction, or was there a larger strategy at play?
I think it was strategic. He saw Home Rule as a step towards Swaraj.
I see.
Mobilize the masses, educate them about their rights, build a foundation for that eventual independence.
So it wasn't about settling for less. It was
Yeah.
about using the system to empower people for full self-rule.
Exactly. Clever, wasn't it?
Really clever. But perhaps one of his most significant achievements, well, I think, was bridging that Hindu-Muslim divide.
Oh, yes, absolutely crucial, especially when the British were actively trying to, you know.
Divide and rule.
Precisely. But Tilak was having none of that. The Lucknow Pact of 1916, that was a big deal.
Tell me about it.
He played a key role in bringing the Congress, mostly Hindu, and the Muslim League together.
A united front.
Yeah.
That must have taken some serious diplomacy.
Oh, it did. He understood that unity was key to achieving independence.
It was a part of his legacy, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, laying the groundwork for that mass movement that ultimately led to India's freedom.
Yeah, it's amazing how such a simple concept, unity, can be so powerful, especially when you're up against, a force like the British Empire.
Yeah.
But, we've talked a lot about Tilak's political strategies and all that.
We have?
But I'm also curious about his personal legacy. He died in 1920, right?
He did.
Right when the independence movement was really picking up steam. What impact do you think he had on the leaders who came after him, like Gandhi, for instance?
Oh, his influence was huge. I mean, his emphasis on self-reliance, cultural pride, mass mobilization,
Right.
those became cornerstones of the movement. And that unwavering belief in Swaraj,
Yeah.
as a birthright, not a privilege.
Right. Not something you have to ask for.
Exactly. Continued to resonate with people.
It's like he laid the foundation for what Gandhi would build on later. Though Gandhi's approach, with the nonviolent resistance, it was pretty different from Tilak's more, assertive style.
It was.
Do you see them as like conflicting approaches, or were they more complementary?
That's an interesting question. On the surface, yeah, they seem pretty different, but I think they actually complemented each other more than anything.
How so?
Well, Tilak, with his fiery spirit, his assertive nationalism,
Right.
he ignited that sense of defiance, awakened a national consciousness. And Gandhi, building on that, he brought in the power of nonviolence, made the struggle for independence into this moral force.
I see. So it was like different phases of the movement.
Yeah, exactly. Tilak paved the way with his bold statements, his mass mobilization, and then Gandhi took it further with his nonviolent resistance.
And it worked.
It did.
Yeah.
That's history for you, right? Seeing how ideas evolve, how movements build on each other, it's never a straight line.
It's messy, it's complicated.
Absolutely. This interplay of different personalities, strategies, ideologies, it all led to India's freedom.
Yeah, it reminds us that historical change is rarely simple. It's dynamic. It's full of contradictions sometimes.
Exactly. And, understanding Tilak's contributions, all the different facets,
Right.
it helps us grasp the complexities of this whole era. His focus on education, the cultural revival, economic resistance, uniting Hindus and Muslims,
Yeah.
all of that played a role in shaping India's freedom struggle.
This has been a really insightful deep dive, I think, especially for those prepping for the UPSC exam.
Oh, excellent.
That modern history section of GS1. Understanding Tilak is like understanding the roots of the Indian independence movement, wouldn't you say?
Couldn't agree more. It's a lens through which we can analyze how nationalist thought evolved, what strategies ultimately led to freedom. He was a visionary leader, a master strategist, a powerful voice for change.
And his legacy still inspires today.
It does.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the life and legacy of Bal Gangadhar Tilak. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a like. And hey, share it with your friends, fellow history buffs, anyone prepping for the UPSC. Until next time, keep exploring the fascinating world of history. And remember, the past holds valuable lessons for the present and the future.